Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be covering the rampant injury reports that have been coming out of both Florida and Utah heading into their game that's going to be on August 31st, which is in about just a little bit less than 2 weeks from now. Um, Here is a report by On Three. Quarterback Cam Rising and tight end Brandon Kuth for Utah still not actively participating in fall camp. And if they're still not actively participating in fall camp this close to the season opener, that tells me right there that they're not going to play in this game. At least not in my opinion. As the 2023 season quickly draws nearer, time is running short for a few key Utah players to get healthy, including starting quarterback Cam Rising and star tight end Brian Kuth. Cam Rising tore an ACL on January 1st in the team's Rose Bowl loss to Penn State, immediately causing doubt into his potential availability for the 2023 season opener against Florida, and Florida will be on the road at Utah as opposed to last year when they played, at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. Brian Kluth, meanwhile, has had a little bit more time to recover after suffering a torn ACL in a September game last year against the Arizona State Sun Devils. However, neither one of them have done much in the fall camp so far. According to beat writer Josh Furlong, Rising is still not clear to return to practice. Meanwhile, Kuth is a bit further ahead along than Rising, but is still not an active participant at camp, and I think that's going to bring in some serious doubt into whether or not they'll be able to play in this game. The Rising injury is even more significant because backup quarterback Brandon Rose suffered a serious injury during a recent scrimmage and may not be available either. So that means that Utah probably is looking at a third string option at the quarterback position. That would put the Utes down to their third string quarterback against the Gators potentially. Yep. Well, it talked about the years that they both have had during their times at Utah. Florida's also dealing with an injury bug. They lost rush end Justice Boone to a torn ACL. I did a video talking about that, and I will link that video in the card at the top part of the screen. Then on Friday, there were another hit with running back Cam Carroll was carted off after suffering a lower body injury. I will be talking about that in a little bit. Carroll was a Tulane transfer who had been quite productive for the Green Wave in the past. He was expected to contribute to Florida's running back rotation behind Trevor Etienne, Montrell Johnson, the 1-2 punch combo in the backfield, and they're slated to meet on August 31st. This is the Cam Campbell update to Cam Campbell's injury. He thanks fans for well wishes. Says he'll be back soon. He said God's testimony is greater than any trial or tribulation. I appreciate much and have much love for Gator Nation. I will be back soon. So if he's saying I will be back soon, maybe that could mean that the injury is not as bad as it once was thought to be, being that he had to get carted off. Maybe it was just a scare and they were doing it out of concern. Kind of like when football players you see nowadays get dinged or knocked out, they don't let the player get up and try to walk off the field. They bring out the cart and just have him lay in a stable position and just make sure he doesn't move so that way he doesn't exacerbate any other injury that he has suffered. The outlook for Carroll, while Carroll's injury sets the Gators back, it doesn't spell utter disaster. The team still boasts Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne in the backfield, both of who nearly ran for 1,000 yards last year. Sorry, I'm just going to pause this right quick. Florida's running backs coach Jabbar Jaloop claims Carroll wasn't afraid to hop in with the competitive unit, and it talks about how Jabbar Jaloop has thought of Cam Carroll's time in Florida. He understands the game. He just got to try to get the two terminologies across in his head right now. So he's got to get that out of the way. Just focus on what we're doing. He should be able to help us somewhere down the line. But he said he'll be back soon. It doesn't appear to be bad. And this was the backup injury that they were talking about. Brandon Rose. This is per the Salt Lake Tribune. Brandon Rose reveals he's been injured. Suffered an undisclosed injury, according to the redshirt freshman's social media. Has been released in his home now. According to an update shared on his Instagram account, he is expected to make a full recovery, but it's not likely that he'll be available for the Florida game. Excuse me. It says right here, Rose finished spring practices as the Utah's number 2 quarterback, but entered fall camp in a battle with Nate Johnson, a freshman, and junior Bryson Barnes for the job. The quarterback position is still in flux. Our first extensive look at live work will be on Thursday with a scrimmage. So hopefully by Monday we will have a pecking order. Coach Kyle Winningham said earlier last week, and this article was posted on last week on August 12th. So that's why it seems a little. It may seem a little bit outdated. That's why he had looked solid in Utah spring game, but has not attempted a pass in his collegiate career, and it's not looking as if he'll be available for the game. And Florida's not just dealing with the Justice Boone injury and the Cam Carroll injury. They also have an injury to their projected starter, Kingsley Eguakon. Um, Following day to day, following his injury, suffered a lower body injury during a practice on Wednesday on August 17th. Starting Gator center Kingsley Eguakon suffered a lower body injury during Wednesday's fall practice, and that is expecting to sideline him on a day-to-day basis. Um, I'm not. I would love for him to be available, but only time will tell. Redshirt sophomore Jake Slaughter and freshman Kanaje Harris and Roderick Kearney, freshmen Kanaje Harris and Roderick Kearney, make up Florida's scholarship depth at the center position, with Eguakon unable to practice. Slater is expected to step into a first team role in practice as a result. Fifth-year redshirt junior Eguakon has started at center in 26 consecutive games for Florida, dating back to the beginning of the 2021 season. No signs of him pointing toward him maintaining the role in 2023. Prior to his elevation to the first team, Eguakon appeared in 14 games as a reserve lineman on special teams, but that was mainly in the Dan Mullen era. He didn't become a starting center until Dan Mullen's last year in 2021. Yeah, 1,747 career snaps. So there's a lot of injuries right now for both Florida and Utah. In addition to Justin Boone, Shamar James had a little bit of an injury himself, but he was able to recover in the meantime. So Florida's going to have one projected starter for them on defense against Utah, but that will be Shamar James and not Justice Boone. So both teams are heading into the season opener with key injuries to key players. Um, now I'm going to speak about this game as a Florida fan because that's what I am. I'm a Florida fan. Um, if Cam Rising, and I'm not wishing that his injury is worse than what it already is, I hope he recovers nicely. Um, if Cam Rising and Brian Kuth, who's the tight end for Utah, if your starting quarterback and your starting tight end is not able to play in the game for Utah, and their backup might not be available, and they're going to have to go to either freshman or a junior who's going to be making his first career start in the game. Now, if you're a Florida fan, this has to become a must-win for you. Like I made the analogy when I heard about this to the Texas A&M game last year. It was a must-win for both of those teams that year because Texas A&M was um, having a bad season. They were 3-5. Their season was on the teetering point, and Florida was 4-4, coming off of a blowout loss to Georgia, and Texas. So it was kind of a must win for them as well in order to try to right the ship, being that they only had a certain amount of games back. They had about 5 games left that time, and the Texas A&M side was ravaged with injuries. They had 20 to 30 players out that game due to injury or illness. And I said, if you're Florida, if you can't beat a undermanned Texas A&M team, a bad Texas A&M team that is undermanned, then it would be one of the most disappointing losses of the year. And Florida was able to win that game. And right here, I think this is had you would have asked me back in March if Florida could have possibly won on the road at Utah, I would have told you no, flat out. But being that there's more information coming out that a couple of starters on Utah's offense is not going to be available, and that their third string quarterback may be playing in the game, if you're Florida, if this is true, and you're going to be facing a Utah team that won't have their best pass catcher and won't have their two top quarterbacks, and they're going to be going up against a third string quarterback, this is a must win for you. You cannot let Utah take this game from you, being that you have a tough schedule and certainly a tough ending to your schedule. You need to be able to stack up wins in the early part of your season while you still can, because you're going to have to go up against Tennessee and then South Carolina and then Georgia and then LSU and then Florida State towards the rest of the year. So you're going to want to have to get as many wins as you can early. Um, in order to save your season, because right now everybody's expecting Florida to go 5-7 and or worse. The SEC network just predicted Florida would go 5-7. So you need to steal some games that you're not expected to win in order to pull off a respectable season, which I think would be somewhere along the lines of a 6 to 8 win record for Florida would be respectable this year when you consider the nationwide expectations. And losing to Utah would be a very big disappointment. So if you're the Gators, you even though it is on the road and you're gonna have to deal with that high altitude that is in Utah, and you're gonna have to deal with that crazy Utah fan crowd noise. This is a game you cannot lose if Utah does not have their starting quarterback and their best pass catcher. So those are my thoughts on Florida's chances heading into their season opener against Utah.